Yo, I'm Brendan, and it's time that we talk about this awkwardness that's happening with M1 Finance, where they're randomly canceling people's credit cards. There's been a ton of changes with M1 lately, but this is not something that was previously advertised or specified to anyone. Hey, watch out for these conditions, or else we will close your card. People are just getting blindsided by these emails and these notifications that all of a sudden you just don't have a credit card with us anymore. So what happens to those people whenever they have potentially like their bills set up on auto pay with this card? Now they're going to have issues with their utility payments or whatever else is normally going through the M1 credit card, because in a flash, now all of a sudden it's closed. Here's what people are saying. This user got this email from M1 Finance, apparently. Dear cardholder, we're writing to share an important update on your M1 Owner's Rewards card. We regret to inform you that we have decided to close your account effective immediately. Because of the reasons mentioned in this email, don't hesitate to contact us, blah, blah, blah. Here's the principal reason for this action taken on their credit card. A combination of low assets under management with M1 and income. Then the user goes on to say that they have about 13 grand in M1 Finance. They're very confused. They don't understand why this is happening. They pay off their card after every paycheck. They've never missed a payment. Their credit score is really high. It's over 800. They seem like kind of a model consumer. So why would M1 Finance suddenly cancel their account? Another user claims they got a very similar message, and they've got $45,000 within M1 Finance, a $70,000 income, and a high credit score, and yet they also got canceled. And several other users got a very similar message and also had been dutifully paying off their credit card every month. And so at first it seems like, well, maybe the deduction is that these people weren't making enough profit for M1 Finance to continue to support the card service. Maybe it's a problem for M1 Finance that people pay off the card because they're not making money on that interest, right? Well, another user here, with quite a colorful name, says that their card was also closed this morning, but they didn't pay it off every month. They actually had a balance there every month, and even still, M1 Finance canceled the card. The justification they got from support was a very similar message. Combination of low assets under management and apparently a low income. And I still have both the credit card and the debit card from M1 Finance. They haven't closed my account yet, but they also probably don't know that my income went down recently, or else I'd be getting a similar email. But I have a hypothesis about this, because I don't think that this was a random action taken without any kind of motivation. I think this is part of this overall plan that M1 has to whittle down the client base they have to only be the highest value users. And the reason for that is I see a little bit of a trend. What we saw happen recently was M1 Finance took their Plus program, their paid membership to get extra features, a lower borrow rate, a higher savings account interest rate, all this stuff, and they essentially removed that. And so at first I read that as a positive thing, like, oh good, it's free now. But it's not free. You've got to have $10,000 in assets under management with them for it to become free. Otherwise you get charged $3 a month. So all they really did there was say, anybody who's got less than 10 grand with us now is going to have to pay to play. We're just not making enough money off of them. They're going to have to justify their existence here. It's like if your adult kid moved back in with you and you charge them rent at home or something. Then anyone that had over $10,000 within the M1 Finance platform got all these extra features potentially for free. Because then whether or not you had been paying for M1 Plus, you got all the features. So for me, since I had been paying for it, now I got the same things and I didn't have to pay for it. It's like saving me money. It's incentivizing me to stay. But there's a lot of people who really liked M1 Finance, who liked using the service, but didn't quite have $10,000, which meant that now they had to pay to stick around, whether they wanted those extra features or not. Maybe they were fine with the baseline features, but now they're paying at least $3 a month. Who knows, in the future it might go up. So I think that subtle communication that M1 Finance was telling people is, we only really want you here if you have a substantial amount of money with us. Then this credit card closure thing comes out, and I think the message is the same. If you don't have a six-figure income and $50,000 plus with us, then just get out of here. It's not even worth our time to have you around. And I think this is where the road divides and things get a little bit tricky, because I think we can view this with two different kind of opinions, at least two. If you have more, leave me a comment. The first opinion could be, let's be mad about this. Let's be pissed off at M1 Finance because they're prioritizing people with a higher net worth, a higher income, people who are going to make them the most money, and that leaves behind vast swaths of people, if not most people. And so I feel a little bit of that fire burning in me, because the reason I started making videos was to help people understand their finances better, to help them overcome those hurdles of the unknown, to be able to start investing and start preparing for their future. And so I want that kind of service that's a good, useful service to be available to everybody. But there's also an alternative view of this situation that takes a totally different viewpoint. And that would be, M1 Finance has to do what it takes to stay in business. It's not here to serve people, it's here to make money and exist as a business. And so I'm sure the people within M1 Finance have done the numbers. They've been figuring this out over the last few months or maybe even a year to say, we're not making enough money off of these people who fit a certain demographic, lower income, lower assets under management. Maybe they pay off their credit card every month. And so they're essentially using our service, but it's costing us. They're not an income producing asset for us, if you want to label people that way. And so then what they did was devise this brilliant plan to just shun those people. At least they announced the rule change when it came to M1 Plus. They kind of did a little bit of a marketing scheme to make it seem like, oh, this is free now, so that's really cool. But I think regardless of your opinion about M1 Finance as a business, their need to survive, what's right and wrong, in any case, this kind of random, sudden, zero notice, email at midnight closure of people's accounts is just foolishness. It's totally ridiculous. It's such a weird thing to just randomly cull out a huge portion of your user base in terms of having to pay a monthly fee, not having access to their credit card anymore, and giving everyone no notice. I mean, at least give people notice and give them a chance to be the kind of customer you want them to be. I would have emailed people 30 days in advance and said, hey, just so you know, we've run the numbers and this doesn't work for us. We have to exist as a business or else we can help no one. We can't help ourselves. And so the only way that we can continue to provide this service is if X, Y, and Z. You have $30,000 under management, or you keep a balance on your credit card, or whatever. And then really clearly just lay out the consequence and say, if you can't do that, then we're going to close your credit card. Just so you know, let's give you some time to move over any kind of bill pay or whatever accounts you're using with this thing, just so it doesn't interrupt your life. That way they would have taken everyone into consideration, treated them like real people, treated them like valuable customers, and not burn all these bridges. It's just so silly the way they did this. It doesn't make any sense to me. If I was M1 Finance, I also would have found a way to add even more value to those high net worth clients. Yeah, they've given us the features of M1 Plus now if you have over $10,000 invested, but if you're going after the really high net worth people, then create some other incentive too. Like I would say, if you have over $100,000 of assets under management with us, maybe you get an extra bonus in terms of a higher interest rate or an even lower borrow rate or something else, and then have another milestone. Okay, if you have $250,000 with us, then you reach some other level of benefit. And so I would give people those motives and those milestones to deposit more and more money within M1 Finance. So it's a really clear, understandable thing. I think that's kind of what Robinhood's been doing lately. They don't have the best reputation. They don't have the highest level of trust amongst people, but at least they trust that people can do math and say, well, if we give them a transfer bonus of 3% and they can roll over an existing retirement account or a 401k or something else, and they get an instant bonus of 3%, people are going to want to do that. The more they transfer over, the more of a bonus they get. Granted, we can put kind of a vesting period in there and say, if you don't keep the money for 2 or 3 years in here, whatever the rule is, then you lose that bonus. So they are incentivized to keep the money here, but that's just such a clean and clear way to motivate people to transfer money over. I mean, why is M1 Finance not doing something like that? They have some transfer bonuses, but they're not a straight percentage like Robinhood's are, and they're just not as appealing. I would be bummed if M1 Finance went out of business. If this is something that's critical for their success, I think it's okay to just say that. Don't put yourself in a position of weakness and say, we're going to go out of business if we don't do this. But they could say something like, we've analyzed our business, we need to make a change, let's do this together. Let's figure out how to make this work. They don't need to ask our opinion, but they can at least give us different outcomes that all make sense for us. This is slamming the door in our face. This is like your girlfriend texting you in the middle of the night and saying, hey, we're breaking up. What's happening? What changed? You know, you're totally blindsided by this thing. This relationship is getting severed and you have no idea why. It's strange whenever we can see this kind of momentum from investing services and from saving services, like Yada Savings is having similar difficulties that are both brought on by themselves and somewhat out of their control right now. And these things seem to happen like in cycles and in spirals where, okay, Robinhood is kind of having an upward trajectory. Like they're adding more and more interesting features. They're getting more and more kind of attractive. And that momentum is building in the positive direction. Where with Yada and M1 Finance, they both seem to be downward spiraling and getting like less and less attractive. They're spiraling downwards in a negative direction. So is this justification for us to move our investing account somewhere else, to take all the money out of M1 Finance and transition it to Robinhood or Acorns or someone else? I can't say right now. The fintech industry is constantly changing. There's new players coming in. There's old players going out. There's features being added all over the place. And I'm anxious to see what happens with newer brokerages too. Like I did this little town hall meeting with Fennel recently. I made a couple of videos about them. If you missed them, you can go back and watch them later. But Fennel is this new investing app, and their goal is to kind of prioritize your own choice in the matter of how you invest a little bit more than the average broker. Like they give you 3 different ways to execute an order. And if you're nerdy enough to know the difference between those 3 ways to execute an order, then you can pick the one that makes the most sense to you, that maybe costs you the least amount of money. I just don't see anyone giving you that kind of option. And then I did this essentially like a Zoom call where anybody who's interested in Fennel can attend this like meeting essentially to say, here's how we got started. Here are the features coming up in the future. And I'm like, dude, in a year, Fennel might be like the app to use. Right now, it's a little sparse on the features. They need a savings account. They need retirement accounts. They need to be able to suggest certain portfolios to you based on how you want to invest. Like, they've got to finish kind of building out the service to make it really like a heavy hitter and a contender. But if they can survive, and if they can keep on this trajectory, I'm like, they're going to be fantastic. So even though something like this or something that's happening with Yotta right now is not very confidence inspiring at all, it's frustrating. It interrupts your life and the flow of all your payments and your finances and everything that was happening. I'm still optimistic because there's tons of new stuff coming out, and there's always going to be a place for us to invest our money. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other what to do with your money, how to invest it, where to put it. That's on you. It's got to make sense with your life, and it's got to be frictionless. It's got to flow for you. So if M1 Finance still works for you in that way, great. If it doesn't, fine. Do something about it. If you got any notifications from M1 Finance, or if you have more information about this, then make sure and leave me a comment. And if you notice, I was wearing this the whole time. I kind of forgot. I just bought this thing, this Delta Hub. It's supposed to help you like not get carpal tunnel whenever you're using a mouse and a keyboard all day. And I got the gaming version of it. And so this thing literally straps to your wrist. And then whenever you're using the mouse, then it's supporting your wrist. And so it's in like a proper position versus being down like that. I've only used it for a day, but so far it's okay. Really cool box though. Well, the secret word for today is tunnel, because I'm not going to get carpal tunnel now. Hopefully, we'll see. Thank you so much for watching and being here and subscribing, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.